Australia is home to many unique and endemic flora and fauna species throughout a range of landscapes covering this continent. And yet we have a history of land clearance and extinctions, some of which are the worst rates compared to other countries. Since European settlement in 1788, 18 species of mammals and 100 species of vascular plants have gone extinct. Australia sadly owns more than half of all mammal extinctions in the world, and there has been many cases of species being discovered after they have gone extinct. To tackle this issue, the International Union for Conservation of Nature, or the IUCN, formed a red list, aiming to evaluate the extinction risk to all taxa through a set of quantitative criteria. Other government acts, such as the Environmental Protection and Biodiversity Conservation, or the EPBC Act, was developed with the aim of establishing recovery programs for all threatened species. These plans started out as single species plans and later moved to multi-species recovery plans. Even more recently, there's been a shift towards planning for regional sections and ecosystem recovery, focusing effort onto a broader scale. A recovery plan is defined by the Australian Department of Environment and Energy as a set list of goals, research and management plans to stop or slow the decline of and encourage the recovery of threatened species or ecological communities. The aim is to maximise the long-term survival of wild populations through a planned and logical framework of goals and activities. This enables stakeholders and responsible government branches to align their efforts and avoid the duplication or contradiction of their actions. So has the money on recovery plans been well spent? In some ways, yes. Recovery plans have aided in many different species for many different ways. For example, the Gilbert's potteroo, which has had a population increase from just 30 individuals in the wild to roughly 135 today. Many species have benefited from the efforts made towards keeping them functionally surviving in their natural habitat. However, there is a level of discussion on whether these recovery plans actually work. According to Watson et al. In a study done in 2011, no significant difference was found between the likelihood of recovery between species with or without recovery plans. Another study by Bottrill et al., also in 2011, stated that the presence or absence of a recovery plan had no significant effect on whether a species was improving, stable, or declining. So let's look at the strengths of recovery plans. Overall, the species vulnerable to extinction is identified, and so are the key threatening processes. There's an increase in community and stakeholder involvement and awareness, and it prevents a further decline through research and management actions. And for a single species plan, it is very specific to the individual needs and details of the species and its niche. And with the shift to a multi-species recovery plan, there's a better allocation of resources, time and money. It avoids management duplications and conflicts, promotes broad-scale planning, and provides an umbrella protection to many species. So looking at the weaknesses, there is the fact that money and time allocations can be hard to specify, and objectives are sometimes unclear. There's the potential for community and stakeholder disagreements and a poor commitment by any party. There is often a lack of time, resources, and adaptive management, and even with proper planning, it doesn't always work. It is biased to animals that people want to study, such as mammals and larger-bodied animals. And there's also the problem that the number of species which has been identified as being threatened but do not have any written recovery plans is large and ever increasing. And with a shift to multi-species recovery plans, there will always be species that are not represented within the group, for example understudied or undiscovered species, and also a plan can't focus on individual species needs in as much detail. So, considering the factor that makes a multi-species recovery plan so successful is the broad views and thinking, how about we go one step further into that broad scale? What if, instead of focusing on a few species who need our help, we broaden out to looking at the threatening process which puts the species in danger in the first place? If we develop proactive and protective threat action plans, then we can stop the species becoming endangered, and the time and money would not need to be delegated to just a handful of species at a time. The number of threats are far fewer than the number of species, meaning less plans would need to be developed, and that each plan can be slightly specified to each region or ecosystem. Areas with many endangered animals present can be given a higher priority. A threat action plan can protect a much higher number of species per plan, both the animals that are identified to benefit and the biota that occurs in the area that either hasn't been discovered or are understudied and would not be known to benefit from protection from this threat.